VHS Files contains spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Horror.
Horror who?
Top 4 horror houses, that's who. Well, welcome back to the VHS Files podcast. Tonight we're bringing you top 4, and we're talking about the top 4 horror houses since we're still in spooky season here. We like doing these top 4s, gives us an opportunity to talk about movies, far and wide instead of particular genres, particular years. Gives Eric a chance not to have to do a back in time segment. I believe this was Eric's idea, though. Eric,
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
What was it about houses? Or was it just sort of one of those things you pulled out of your ass?
I think he pulled it out of his ass.
Yeah, it wasn't any great inspiration, but it's fun to think about locations. You talk a lot about atmosphere and a good house can be really scary all on its own. Maybe it's haunted, maybe it's not haunted, maybe it's someplace where it's dangerous, or where something horrible happened, or there's a lot of different ways that a house can be memorable. Maybe it's just visually. Certainly that's part of it. So I just thought it might be a fun conversation.
What I found most challenging about it was I kept wanting to put like hotels and shit on there, like not something other than a house, and
Right.
I kept having to go back and Josh, it's not places where people live, it's houses. So I kept having to discipline myself there.
Yeah, I'm curious if we will argue about what constitutes a house and possibly what is considered a horror movie.
Right.
Because there might be some blurry lines there.
I have one that I think might generate some controversy. So we'll see when we get to that.
Like if
one.
we said home, then you could go, okay,
Yeah.
anywhere somebody's living is a home, but houses are pretty specific if you ask me.
True. Yeah. Jason, do you have any trouble with this one?
No, I rattled off probably about 10 or 30 at one time.
10 or 30?
I'm just kidding. I did
A
not.
fair range, large range, somewhere between 10 or 30.
And then I did some digging onto interwebs. And the other things about these houses and some of these movies, they're not just a place, but they're almost a secondary character.
Yeah.
In the film too. They play a large role. So I mean, you have your main protagonists and stuff like that, but the house is what can help the movie move along, and is just as important as your main protagonist. And to me, some of these houses on probably all 3 of our lists, to me, like they could have been for best supporting actor, the house. So, because I think that's how it is. I mean, I know one on my top 4, I think is that in that regards, as far as part of the movie. It's just not a setting.
So let me gauge what you guys did on this one, because I know we'll try to dig and try and do something a little off the norm when we do our top 4s here. Maybe we're not picking the one that we would instantly think of, because everybody's going to think of that. So did you guys dig a little deep for what you were putting on your list, or do you have some on there that are pretty go, you will go right to them?
There was like I said, there was a bunch you immediately think of, especially when you're saying it's your top 4. It's right. Eric's top 4. So therefore, it's not just, well, that's a cool house. No, it's got to be your top 4, the memorable house in a horror movie. Right. So therefore, you come up with them pretty quick, but then you dig and you go, that is pretty good too. Maybe I need to bump it up on the list from honorable mention into the top 4.
Yeah.
And then also you have to consider, is my favorite just the most popular one?
Right.
And sometimes it is. We end up doing a bunch of honorable mentions anyway, so I'm trying to just really go with my heart, and so I have some that are pretty popular.
I have one, possibly 2, that I will be surprised if they're not on Jason's list.
Well, we share the same brain. Chainsaw and Dave.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I love this film.
I feel like there's probably there's like 3 that could be on all of our lists.
There's one on mine for sure that I'm pretty sure is on Eric's top 4. and I think it could possibly be on all 3. But if it doesn't show up in Eric's top 4, I will be fucking shocked.
So and you know, we typically, if somebody says they're one of their top 4 and somebody else has it on their list, they'll go, oh, you know, oh, I've got that on mine and we'll talk about it and whatnot. So I kind of want to hold off on that this time around. Let's see if we can. It's not going to be surprising if someone has the same thing on their list just a little further down, but let's just kind of, you know, hold it out. I do find it interesting when we have the same things on our list, but I hate when we have to all talk about it at one time because somebody's got it on their list and it's on the other person's list. So let's see if we can't try and, you know, talk about them in the order we give them out in and whatnot. And let's try and not spoil them for everybody. But,
yeah.
All right.
Well, Eric, you picked this top 4, so we're going to start with your number 4.
My number 4 is going to be the Belfon's house from Martyrs.
Whoa.
Man,
Whoa.
They're still there digging like, let's go as deep as I can and talk about movies that probably Jason has not even watched.
Deep cut right there, my friend.
I had to look up what the people that live there were named.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that, of course, but that one came to mind for me just because it's so unassuming and it really keeps you guessing for a while, like if there's really anything wrong with it. And then the horrors that come after that, it's just popped into my head and I'm like, yeah, it's just so you know, that movie's such a freaking gut punch. I think it's worth having on the list, and I like that it was kind of deep.
Well, Jason, have you heard a whole lot about Martyrs? Have you seen Martyrs?
No.
It's one of those that's talked about a lot in the horror community, which makes me think you probably have been avoiding it just because of that. But
I don't want to hear what you're talking about over here.
But it, you know, like Eric said, it's a gut punch of a movie. Like, it's one of those movies where you watch it and you're like, okay, I don't think I ever need to watch that shit again. Like, it's you know.
Yeah, I'm not super excited for a rewatch. I've only seen it once.
Wasn't that movie in one of our other top 4s? Like something from that movie?
No, this is the first time we've mentioned this particular movie.
It seems like I thought Eric has mentioned this movie before.
My top 4 feel-good movies.
Exactly.
Yeah. Top 4 movies full of sunshine and rainbows. Is that what you're going on?
And it's one of those that's like, you know, you don't want to give too much away to anybody who hasn't seen it. It's one of those movies you want to go in knowing as little as possible. But yeah, I mean, it's a great movie to pick for a top 4 horror houses because there's some serious shit that goes down in that movie.
There's some horrors in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Good one.
Nice.
Jason, number 4.
Number 4. I'm going with the Amityville Horror House in Amityville, New York. But the reason I put it on here is because not only is it in the movie, it's a real house and real fucked up shit happened in it.
The 6 members of the family were found last night in bed, shot, and killed.
That was one of the ones that I was fairly certain Jason was going to have on his list.
Well, I love the first Amityville movie from, what was it, 1979 with Mr. Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
And
Margot Kidder. Margot Kidder's in that one too, I believe.
I have to say, guy, I have to admit something, and you're going to give me hell for it.
You've never seen that.
I've not seen that movie.
And Eric, I'm going to be on your side. I have not seen the original either.
Holy shit!
I've actually seen the one with Ryan Reynolds, the remake. I have not seen the original.
Holy shit.
I haven't seen either. I own both. I think I got it in a 2-pack or something.
Yeah.
I need to watch it.
This shows up on a lot of lists, not just because it's an iconic house. The picture of the house with the 2 windows, which is, I think, the side shot of that, it's just iconic, period. I mean, it was a bestseller book, then became a movie. Real murders took place in it. What's his name? Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his whole family in this house, and that's where the book was written from. And then the Lutzes moved in, and all the haunted, creepy things, walls bleeding with blood, stenches, the house full of flies, and then the whole "get out," shit from the movie. The
first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about the Amityville Horror is an old Eddie Murphy joke from his old Delirious stand-up.
Why don't white people just leave the house when there's a ghost in the house? In the Amityville Horror, the ghost told them to get out the house. White people stayed in there. Now that's a hint and a half for your ass. I would have been in the house and said, oh, baby, this is beautiful. We got a chandelier hanging up here, kids outside playing. It's a beautiful neighborhood. We ain't got nothing to worry. I really love them. This is really nice. Get out. Too bad we can't stay, baby.
Eddie Murphy is the best.
Yeah, I mean, that was my number 4, and it also relates to, was it Ed and Lorraine Warren, which are from the Conjuring series with a bunch of haunted houses. They actually investigated this house in real life. So I figured it needed to be in the top 4. I mean, they made a bunch of sequels to this. Part 2 is pretty cool because it tells you the story of what happened before the Lutzes with the DeFeo murders. Mm-hmm. And then from there on, wild tangents of all kinds of stupidity and portals opening up. And
there's a newer one coming out or came out recently in space. Is that right?
I guess so.
Like the house is literally like floating through space.
Amityville House in Uranus. Is what it's called. But the remake with Ryan Reynolds, I enjoyed it. There's some parts of it that get a little cheesy.
Was it the parts with Ryan Reynolds in it?
What do you mean?
Yeah, with him chopping wood with no shirt on. That's what all the women were watching the movie for. And I actually got to watch that movie at a drive-in theater in Florida.
That's fun.
Wow. That was a cool remember.
Man, I wish we had a drive-in by here.
Me too.
I think it's
but you can also probably buy this house. It's at 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, New York. So I believe it's been up for sale a few times and sold and for sale again. So
it seems like a prime candidate for like a house for a movie studio to just buy and use for movies. Like,
it's kind
of well, I guess it's probably residential, right? It's zoned.
Yeah,
you can't use it for that kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of these, I mean, thinking about a lot of these houses, some of them, of course, are real houses like that one that you can go visit. That's obvious. We're going to, I'm sure, get to some other examples like that on this list.
Go ahead, Josh. What's your number?
I'm going to go ahead and get the one that could serve some controversy up. I put the Ghostbusters firehouse.
Oh.
So let's get into the debate here. Does this qualify for top 4 horror houses?
I don't know. It's in Eric just brought up a good point. Is it listed as residential or commercial?
Well, they do live in it.
It does have house in the name.
It does have house in the name.
So
and they do live in it.
I mean, they do run a business out of it, but people run businesses out of their houses. I don't see why it wouldn't qualify.
I mean, it's kind of more like an apartment, but the fact that it's called a firehouse, I think, edges you into you're okay.
All right.
If it was fire station and not firehouse, but you strategically called it the firehouse and sold it.
It just seems a little pricey for a unique fixer-upper opportunity, that's all.
It's an icon just from
It never crossed my mind, dude.
That sign out in the front. You got Ecto-1 parking in the garage there in the front. And I mean, who doesn't want to have a fire pole that they can slide down in their house?
Hell yeah.
Like that was the big appeal for the Ghostbusters firehouse for me, was the fact that you could slide down the pole.
I think that's what sold it on Ray. He was worried about the money and everything. He slid down the pole. I'll buy it. I'm taking it.
Wow, this place is great. When can we move in?
That's one of my favorite scenes of the movie, is where they're telling them about all the stuff that's wrong with this place. Right. And Egon's like, this place should be condemned. And
Ray
then you
comes
got
down
Ray.
the pole.
Yeah. So
keeping it.
I shared the enthusiasm Ray had in that scene. So, but when we started talking about houses, I was like, this was one of the first ones I wrote down, and I was like,
that's great.
This might be controversial, but I'm going to put it on here and see where we get with it.
I love it, and I love when somebody comes up with a surprise that you don't see coming. Because like I think about this for like a few days before we do this. And and it's so funny. Some just never cross your mind.
I honestly will try and think of as much as I can, and when I've sort of hit a brick wall, then I'll resort to the internet.
yeah.
But same, I try to genuinely make them like the ones that instantly pop into my mind, the ones that I think about right off the bat. Right, and that was definitely one of the first ones. So
there you go. Good.
I'll also just like look at like my movie list.
Yeah.
Oh
Because
yeah.
sometimes just seeing a movie makes you think of something.
Yep.
So I'll just like look through movies basically.
And it was hard because like Rec, which is a single location place, but it's an apartment building. It's not a house. So
I thought
was
about that too. Yeah, I thought about that too, and I did not go there because it's not a house.
Yep. All right, Eric. Well, we're into your number 3.
My number 3 is Judge Volkenheiser's house from Nothing But Trouble.
Holy shit, dude! You went deep.
That one actually did cross my mind. I thought about putting it on the list.
God.
But yeah, I haven't watched that movie in quite some time.
I've watched it somewhat recently, actually.
And the reason why is because I fucking hated that movie when I was a kid. Like,
I loved it.
Dude, it's got Digital Underground and Tupac's in it.
yeah. I know. And Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase and Demi Moore.
Dan Aykroyd with a dick nose.
Yeah, and
Yes.
the bone crusher or whatever it's called.
But there's every reason I should love that movie, but I remember hating it when I was a kid. Now, again, we've mentioned the Film Junk podcast on here quite a few times. And Frank is a big proprietor of this movie.
That's right.
So I have picked up the Blu-ray in recent months.
You
So
should watch it.
I'm
You should
ready
watch
to
it.
give it a rewatch and see what I think of it now, because it's been years.
I guarantee you'll have fun with it. It's not great, but you'll have fun with it.
That's not good. No, that's no good.
Yeah. Oh, it's not great. But dude, the practical makeup of the twins, Dan
Yeah.
Aykroyd, John Candy's multiple characters.
Oh yeah.
You got hot Demi Moore. You got funny ass Chevy Chase.
Yep.
Then, like I said, you got Digital Underground with Tupac shows up at one point.
There's
That
a
was
lot
like-
of great special effects and like set design stuff, like not just the makeup, but like set design and the look of everything. All that's really fun. Like they made, I think they spent like way too much on it. They like made this whole compound or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I'm
I
gonna
think
stop talking.
didn't Dan Aykroyd direct this too?
Director Dan Aykroyd, writer Peter and Dan Aykroyd.
Ah.
So
So
he
he was a
wrote,
writer and
he wrote
director.
and directed it. Yeah, and stars in it.
I think it's one of those movies that's has a cult following now. But I remember the thing I remember about the most about this is like everything about it annoyed me. Like it was just like nails on a chalkboard.
You know, you are worse than a week of yellow shitstorms.
It is obnoxious. It's an obnoxious movie, but
It is.
And some of it's kind of like gross out and kind of like uncomfortable. I agree. It's like crass.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a crass movie, but it's fun to go back to.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean-
and I do love the Chevy Chase just being a smart ass Fletch
Yeah.
stuff. He's doing that here, and it's good. I always love.
Just that visual of Dan Aykroyd's dick nose sticks with you, man. I mean,
yeah, you can't forget that.
Oh, what's the one at the end when they call him at the end and he runs through the wall and it's all like Looney Tunes? You can see the cutout of him where he ran through the wall. That's like the icing on the cake at the end of the movie. That's when you know it's just a movie you can't take seriously. You just watch it.
right.
Yep.
So.
Well, I'll be giving
Good
that
one,
a
Eric.
rewatch sometime soon, just
Thank you.
because.
That was one
Good
that
one.
popped into my head almost immediately. That's like definitely like a first reaction one for me.
Right.
Honestly, Eric, I would have thought that would have been a movie you had never seen.
Oh, well,
I don't know. It just sounds like a movie. I was like, Eric's throw this out. That's awesome, dude.
that's right. Yeah, I did.
He's happy
Thank
to
you.
disappoint you and surprise you.
I like it. I like the movie. I think it's just like you said. It's just a stupid fun ride.
Well,
Yeah.
Speaking of stupid fun rides, Jason, what's your number 3?
Oh, well, this is the one that I thought would be on Eric's, and maybe a little bit because it's not a house, but it is a home. You could live in it if you wanted to. And
I know where this is going.
Be way away from everybody.
Go on.
My number 3. Throughout the movie, it is their home. It's the home of the Necronomicon, the home of the Deadites. It is the Evil Dead cabin in the woods.
Yes, cabin in the woods.
That's the one that I am fairly certain is on Eric's list as well, but we will have to wait to find out.
It's possible.
But we can't say nothing.
No one knows if it is or isn't. But I'll allow it as a house. I think it is a house.
It is a house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called the Evil Dead cabin when you look it up. But I was like, you could live in it if
No,
you
it's a
wanted to be a
house, yeah.
hermit away from everybody. In the opening segment, when we were talking about movies, to me, this movie in the setting is a secondary character to Ashley.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is what I meant by this. This is the best supporting actress award goes to the house, because I mean you get all the craziness that ensues inside the house, the basement, the setting where what's her name's in the wine cellar, the fruit cellar, whatever they call it. The part where he's outside and you see the eyes. On the cabin, looking back at it. I mean, that tells you, you know, what's going on. But I mean,
definitely.
And Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, even in the remake, that cabin plays a big part of the whole movie run and everything like that. And you can actually visit this place, Morristown, Tennessee, where the original one was. If you want to visit part 2, it's in, is it Wadesboro, North Carolina?
Yeah.
I would like to visit that place.
I think you can part 2
really
one,
cool.
but part 1 they said it's pretty much just felt it because they just put it together with what they
part
had.
2 is good. I'll go to that one. It's closer and not falling apart, or as much or whatever. Yeah,
but
I love that. I love the cabin too. That's one that I thought of immediately. I thought might be on somebody's list. The trap door, the cellar, basement, whatever you call it.
Come into my fruit cellar.
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely a great.
It's a good
location.
one.
Plus, like once you get there, you can't get too far away from it. You always end up coming back, because outside of it is just you can't. Just don't even worry about being outside. You have to get back in that cabin. So it's not only like single location, but it's like it has like gravity, just like
pulls everybody. Yeah. It pulls the evil from outside into it. There's evil in it. And one of my favorite scenes, and Josh knows this is from Evil Dead 2, is when Ash is just having his breakdown and the deer is on the walls doing his head and everything's laughing and the lamp's going.
I would definitely say the house is more of a character in the second movie than it is the first.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, all those gags with the house and the swelling and when it like moves and morphs and all that kind of stuff.
All the blood coming out of the walls.
Wall. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, where did all that blood come from? So,
all right.
Yeah, my number 3.
Well, we'll see if it makes another appearance on the list going forward. My number 3 is going to be one that I'm wondering if anybody thought about. I'm going Grandpa's house from the Lost Boys.
Oh, that's a good one.
This is a pretty cool place. Yeah, for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Come on.
Good one.
Okay.
It
not a scary house.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're not into taxidermy, it might be kind of scary.
Yeah, well, Grandpa's kind of scary himself.
But it is not considered like a scary place. That's interesting that you went there like to a kind of a different angle of like a house from a horror movie.
Well, I just like Jason was saying with the Evil Dead house, or the cabin, it's kind of a character in the movie. It ultimately in the end is part of what helps destroy the vampires. But you're in that house throughout so much of this movie. From the bathrooms up and down the stairs.
My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
The rafters, the fight in the rafters, and like just the whole setting being in that house when they use it in that movie. I love it. And I've always been just enamored with the way that house looks, how most of it is looks like a cabin. It's made of wood. It's not like your normal like modern day looking house. And I've just, I've always loved Grandpa in The Lost Boys. Every time he's on screen, he's hilarious. And just the fact that the majority of that movie takes place in that house, it's always been one that has stuck with me. And it's not a likely candidate to be on like a top 4 horror houses list, but that's definitely one that I think of right off the top of my head when you say, pick a house from a horror movie. It's definitely one I think of pretty quickly.
Yeah, man. I think you're when you're kind of talking about like geography, I think all of our favorite houses share that quality of you get to see all of the house. You get to see this part, that part, how what's the contrast between, like, is this part pretty, this part's scary, or is every part scary, or
Right.
is there a part that's hidden or revealed, or where do you end up? Do you go in the basement? Do you go in the attic? Yeah, all the best houses and movies, you learn all the geography about it, and you know where everything is.
An example of that is one that I've got on my honorable mentions list that we'll talk about when we get to it, but it is the exact reason you were just saying, is the geography and everything. Like it had to go on the list somewhere, but it definitely wasn't gonna make my top 4, but I do have an honorable mention that's like that.
Yeah, I got a couple that fit that bill as well.
I mean, you think about it, there's memorable, even just sections of the house, the bathroom with the tub, dropping in the milk in the kitchen scene,
Death by Stereo. the old fart shelf in the refrigerator. I love that shit.
Nobody touches the second shelf but me.
Good old grandpa.
All right, we're halfway through the list. Eric, number 2.
My number 2.
Give us the number 2, Eric.
My number 2 is an iconic house that has been the inspiration for many other houses of its type, and it was definitely probably the first thing I thought of when this idea came up, and that's the cabin from Evil Dead / Evil Dead 2.
I beat you to it. By one.
You did, yes. Talking about geography, especially in 2, you get more of that. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about 2 movies, or if we have to just pick one. I guess I would have to pick the first one, since it's the original.
Honestly, I would allow either one. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's the same cabin in both movies. It doesn't really
technically
matter.
The same cabin. Okay.
Yeah.
That whole aesthetic has been copied many times, and it still works. Like, it's just great. There's something just so simple and great about it. Obviously I love those movies. I don't know, we already talked about it once. It's basically it. It's just, the all the different locations, like you said, in it, even in the new one, in the newer one.
Well, we talked about it a little bit in the episode where we talked about Evil Dead. If you want to listen to that, you can go back and check it out. But the introduction of the cabin in the first movie with the swing banging against the side of the house. Mm-hmm. I remember, we talked about it in that episode. I haven't seen that first movie a whole bunch of times, but since watching it for the episode that we recorded, that's been the thing that has stuck with me, is them getting to the cabin and the swing just kind of tapping against the side of the house.
A long deserted cabin in the woods is creepy by itself without deadites. I mean, there's spiders in there. It's dirty. There's bugs. You don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a crazy crackhead in there. You don't know. That's scary.
Squatters.
And we all grew up in places
Republicans.
We grew up in the South, where I'm not maybe not as woodsy as that, but there's old buildings, and you're a kid and you see the old building, and it's creepy as hell.
I've run around in many abandoned houses in neighborhoods when I was a kid.
and out in the woods or whatever, and that shit is scary. That's real life scary, So I think it captures some of that.
Jason,
number 2. My number 2.
Can I guess?
No, don't guess. I don't want you to guess. My number 2, it come up. It's from an older movie, but I went with the Hewitt house from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And another one we've talked about fairly recently.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, great state of Texas. That's where I live. I mean, you can't do anything about talking about Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw Massacre around here if you're in the horror community. But I mean, as a kid watching that movie with the whole creepiness of the first time when they go to it, it looks creepy from the outside. The whole metal sliding door with Leatherface grabbing her,
sliding door,
grabbing the guy and then grabbing her when she tries to run away. The bone chairs, the skin lamps, the smell. I mean, even in the all the other sequels, I mean, they basically get worse, which you can go to that episode and listen to us talk about the sequels.
Get worse.
But it's just, that house is iconic to me. I mean, and a lot of that's based on another real thing, because like the whole thing with the Amityville Horror, they kind of took from the story of Ed Gein, where he made chairs out of bones and lamps out of skin and faces out of women he dug up and stuff like that. So it's another scary thing. I mean, growing up here as a kid, I don't know why, but you believe that Leatherface is real. I mean, your parents even told stories about it. They knew that they'd seen the movies, but you grew up here thinking that that was a real house with real people and they were in a prison somewhere. So yeah, you were scared to get off the road. I think that's kind of what it was. It's a cautionary tale of don't go somewhere you're not supposed to be, or that you don't know where you're at. You know, as growing up here in Texas,
don't pick up hitchhikers.
Don't pick up hitchhikers and stuff like that. And it's another place you can visit. It's in Granger, Texas. You can actually go to the Hewitt house and check it out.
That would be very cool.
That'd be a cool road trip.
How far is that from you? That's pretty far.
Oh yeah, that's probably about 4 or 5 hours. So
that's close as Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's further away.
Well,
I'm surprised you haven't gone there yet.
Well, they have the gas station here too.
Right.
Bastrop, I think, Texas, which they just got a lawsuit filed against them for all their licensing and stuff because they didn't want to come to agreement with the people who bought the licensing for Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff. So that sucks. They might be closing that place down. But yeah, super iconic to me. So did you think that was going to be it, Josh? Was that what my number 2 was?
No, actually not. I'm surprised. So now we're playing a game of poker. I'm trying to get Jason's poker face on what's going to be number 1 here because there are 2 possible outcomes. And I'm wondering which one he went with.
Flip a coin. Well, see, I fooled you with number 2.
Yeah, you did. My number 2 comes from an episode long time ago, probably our 6th episode, I think. It's going to be the Dietz's house from Beetlejuice.
There you go.
You mean the Maitland's house?
It's the Maitland's house, bro.
It's the Maitland's house.
It's the Maitland's house to start, but then the Dietz buy it. It gets its personality when
you have to pick one. You have to pick. Oh, so you pick the Dietz house.
I'm going with the Dietz house.
The Maitland's house. Yes. Maitland's house, boring. Dietz house.
Right. I love Julia's style. I love her sculptures in the house. It even goes down to her clothes where she's wearing the glove as a headband and shit like that. Like, that movie has just always, been one of my go-tos. And again, the house is a character in that movie. The house is the big thing that starts the plot of the movie in a way where they love this house, they don't want to leave it, and then they die, and then someone buys it and does something completely something that the Maitlands would never do to this house.
And look at that kitchen. You're finally going to be able to cook a decent meal.
But it sets everything into motion for that movie. You're in that house for most of the movie. And I've just always loved it. I love when they're going through it in the beginning and trying to gut it, and we see the dead bodies hanging in the closet and whatnot, but they don't see them.
We just have to pray the other closets are bigger than this one.
Again, they established the layout of the house. You're in it the entire movie. It's an iconic house for me, and I absolutely love the Dietz's house in Beetlejuice.
I can agree. That's a
great
one, Josh. I like that pick. It's a good number 2.
It's a great one.
It's strong. Strong number 2.
It's got good legs.
Yeah, it's got good legs. It's got corn and nuts. Number 2.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, don't blow out your O-ring there, buddy.
Just pulled a muscle in my shoulder.
Oh no, another Austin Powers, Mike Myers.
All right, Eric, numero uno.
You're number 1.
We can't get away from this guy. My number 1. Okay, you're thinking about horror movies. You're thinking about houses. You're thinking about houses in horror movies, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking about scary houses. You're thinking about houses that creep you out, right? And that house for me is the Hewitt house from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, shit.
That place is creepy. It's dirty. There's feathers. Ugh, it's disgusting. The
feathers in the furniture are what really set it out for me.
Yeah, it is nasty. And talking about where we've all grown up, you want to talk about a cabin in the woods being creepy? No, a house like this is creepy. Like meth head creeper, like yucky, dirty house. That's scary. That's scarier than a house in the middle of the Smoky Mountains for me. Like that's like trashy, nasty.
Meth head chewing on a shin bone in the corner.
Yeah, yeah. Just it's that house is just nothing beats it. I had to put it first. I knew it would be on somebody's list, but yeah.
I can't believe that me and Eric have 2 movies on our top 4, but me and Josh have not shared one yet.
Well, we'll see. We shall see.
We shall see. All right, now this is the moment I've been waiting for. I can't wait to hear what Jason's number 1 is and if I'm right or wrong.
I have a theory.
Drum roll, please.
I saw this coming.
I wonder what my number 1 house is going to be.
Good for you. Stick to your guns. I like it.
Number 1.
It was between this one and another famous horror house. I was wondering.
You were thinking Elm Street.
I was wondering if he was going to throw me for a loop and pick the Elm Street house instead of the Michael Myers house.
That's my number 1 movie. The fuck yeah, I'm going to pick a Myers house number 1.
Hell yeah. That's why I had to put Evil Dead on there, man.
Yeah.
I couldn't just ignore that.
No, you can't. That's why I knew when I put it down, I figured it'd be on Eric's. But yeah, dude, when Eric first said that, literally the first note I wrote on the phone, number 1, Myers house.
And I kind of figured that as well.
Yeah. It's not a gigantic surprise, but yeah.
Honestly, I'm surprised that you put the Hewitt house on your list and not the Elm Street house.
He's a Texas boy, man.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Texas. And again, my top 4. So yeah, I mean,
not your top 4, Josh.
Yeah, not yours. It's fucking mine. Give it up to the Mikey. But
and I know he doesn't mention it very often, but he is from Texas.
Did you know I'm from Texas?
In the 20-something years I've known you, I've never heard you say that.
My God, first time.
He really does.
But no, when we did this, yeah, this is gonna be my number 1. I mean, to me, this is the most infamous house in horror history to me because it took place of the most infamous man in horror history, Michael Myers. Kills his sister as a kid.
Right in the
Things
beginning.
that ensue in the house, in sequels down the road. Things come back to this house. Yeah, dude, a lot of sequels suck. Yeah, but no matter what, Mikey comes home.
Michael, go home. Go home.
I mean, a lot of the horror guys, they don't come to their home. Something might have happened there and they move away. But I mean, like Leatherface, that was his home, but he never really left. He just went and hid down the road until the cops left and he came back home. But I mean, Mikey travels from cross country or whatever back to his house in Haddonfield, no matter where he's at. I mean, he is a homebody. He wants to be at his house.
Enter the birthplace of evil in its purest form, the childhood home of our most brutal mass murderer, Michael Myers.
But yeah, I mean, it's, even through the reboots and the prequels, sequel, whatever you want to call them now, like, yeah, that house has always been a staple that it's always come back to.
They didn't forget about it.
Same thing with the Nightmare house. I mean, I think they don't even abandon it for the new Nightmare. I mean, they always come back to Nancy's house in some way in the Nightmare series. So I just, it's one of those iconic places, and whenever you have to resort back to it, there's a reason why it's so notorious. I mean, again, we know the layout of the Myers house. We've been through it numerous times. One of my favorite experiences in there is in the new movie when you go through and you see Big John and Little John dancing around the house and whatnot.
Yeah,
they're my favorite characters in Halloween Kills.
That hurt to watch that movie in some aspects. There were some cool parts of it, but I'm kind of waiting for them to wrap up this trilogy.
They need to reboot it.
And you just talked blasphemy to Jason right now.
Well, if it's going to keep going, if you're going to close the story on Jamie Lee Curtis as an actress, and she's older now, and this is the end of Laurie Strode, I'm just saying the only next step is to reboot. You can't make a movie with a 91-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis, trying to shoot a shotgun. She'll break her collarbone or something.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're doing because they're going to keep making these movies. Michael sells.
Exactly.
They found that out. They tried taking him out of one movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decent movie or whatever it is on its own if you don't consider it a Halloween movie. But they found out when you take Michael out of the equation, no sales.
I want my money, right?
And the fact that it's a mask makes it easily rebootable, and it can look, you know what I mean? Like you
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing. Anytime they've tried to do something with Michael Myers is the mask. Like, you're gonna have to do the mask the right way. We've seen the mask done bad through most of the series, but the flashback scenes in Halloween Kills.
That's what I was about to say, dude.
They got that right.
That was dead fucking on, dude. Yeah. I mean, it looked good. Michael looked good. Donald Pleasance, he doesn't even live anymore. He looked good.
Yeah.
And it was actually a guy we found out later. It wasn't CGI.
Right. Yeah, I saw that too, yeah.
My biggest fear was that once the makeup was on, he would look less like Donald Pleasance than when he did beforehand.
Real quick, when you said you're wondering why Krueger house didn't end up on here, it's not Freddy's home. Leatherface lived at his home. This is Michael's home. The Deadites and the evil live at that home. The demons live in the Amityville home.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that disqualifies it from being able to be on this list.
I mean, I don't know that the demons live in the cabin, but that's...
No, but when it came to me, well, you had those...
It came to Jason's list,
yeah,
and it is Jason's list, not yours,
Josh. Number 4 and 3, but then when you get to Leatherface, Freddy, Jason, Michael, and all them like that, their homes are more iconic to me, even though everybody knows the green roof house, red shutters, Springfield house from Elm Street. So
as much as I'm defending Nancy's house from Nightmare on Elm Street, it's not my number 1.
What could it be, folks?
I'm going to be replaying from another episode that we've already done. Anybody want to take a stab at what my number 1 is?
No.
You can't use the compound in Antarctica as a home.
Damn.
You can't go use the thing, the compound down. Can't do it. You can't use the ship from Aliens as a home.
But I can use the Bates house from Psycho.
There you go. All right.
That's what I was going to say, but you're going to be your number 1.
You talk about icons. I mean, it's constructed on Universal's slot. I mean,
yes,
like this
is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is the house of horror houses. I mean, it's since 1960, this house has been a part of movie culture. And, even though we don't really get a good sense of the layout of the house throughout the movie. You go upstairs and into the basement and whatnot. But over the years, other movies, Bates Motel TV show, all that stuff, we've gotten to know the house a lot better. But again, I mean, I don't know if this house really serves much as a character in this movie. More the Bates Motel in Psycho is more of a character than the house. But still, that house on the hill, the iconic shot of him looking up at the house on the poster,
unmistakable, iconic exterior. Talking about it like exteriors of a house, unmistakable.
And that's, I kind of left it off my list, because it's that house,
and it's it was honestly between the Elm Street house and Psycho for me. I mean,
really, and Elm Street get bumps all the way to 5th.
Yeah, it goes from number 1 to 5.
Yeah, that's how my brain works.
Yeah, I wanted to include some more rare and off the beaten path sort of houses in my list. So I figure, Elm Street house gets all the love. I'm going back to old school, original OG, the Bates house.
Yeah, I'm glad it made one of our lists. That's definitely one that is on my honorable mentions, and it was I remember seeing that at Universal, and it was so cool, and it creeped me out. I always love that. I love the Birds Ride too.
But I mean, I don't think you get the Elm Street house if you don't have the Bates house. There's something about that I mean, like, when you want to put a house as a character in a movie, I mean, you kind of have to go back to like that sort of thing. So I couldn't not put the Bates house on the list.
Like
it. Good for you.
And honorable mentions, my favorite part where we just rattle them off.
Rapid fire.
I'm going to throw one out there that I just bumped off my list. But I'm going The Cabin in the Woods from Cabin in the Woods.
Derivative.
I knew the Evil Dead Cabin was going to be on the list, so I was like, this thing has to be brought up. But that was one of those movies. I remember watching that movie for the first time, going, "What the fuck is happening in this movie?" And
great first watch.
That was a fun watch. I think I went to the theaters and saw that with you, Josh. I think
maybe, but I remember that first watch of this movie, and you're like, you know, this is a rare case where Hollywood did well in giving us a trailer that got us interested, didn't give us a whole lot, and didn't give a lot away. And when you saw that movie, you were like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah, when that force field comes up, you're just like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
I did not know this is the kind of movie we were in."
Right? Yeah, because I remember seeing that the first time, and there are a lot of people talk about, is this an Evil Dead remake? Because that cabin looks really familiar. A lot of people started thinking that, but no, it was just called Cabin in the Woods.
And there's a lot of callbacks to movies like Evil Dead.
What the hell was that?
Lots of other horror movies
on purpose.
In that, but you know,
it's like commentary on horror films.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that first watch, I mean, you get everything you get from that movie, and you know, obviously the cabin is a character, and then everything that happens within it. It's one of those that could not go unnoticed in a top 4 horror houses.
Jerry's house from Fright Night.
Oh yes, I see what you mean.
I actually considered putting that on my list. I just watched Fright Night, and yes, the Dandridge house is awesome. I remember loving that house as a kid.
Yeah, you every time you see it, there's fog rolling out of every house in the whole area. There's fog rolling out of it,
and all the art, like the art pieces he's got in there and shit, and like that house is also kind of a character in Fright Night.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Another quick one. It's been on an episode. I threw the Poltergeist house on there.
I thought Josh might have that on his list.
I actually kind of thought he would. I actually thought you would too, Eric. I thought it would be on yours. Let's see. I did the Conjuring house from the Conjuring Part 1 with another Ed and Lorraine Warren Amityville tie-in there.
Yeah,
another
cool. Great geography house. Lots of different places down underneath it, crawling around, like all that stuff.
Dude, cool. And a lot of people, you know, the Conjuring's kind of been pushed a lot and everything, but that first movie, that one shot when he's standing there and she's looking and she sees the dead witch hanging from the tree and only she sees it.
Yeah.
And then that one shot where the lady of the house, I forgot her name, is sleeping and that fucking witch comes floating over her and pukes in her fucking mouth. I didn't see that coming. I was like,
there's the exorcism scene is pretty gnarly too. That first movie really is great.
When they fall into the basement, when they fall
I
through the floor.
I feel like James Wan is like still living off that movie.
I think James Wan knows how to build good suspense though. Like he doesn't give you cheap jump scares. Like he sets you up for a jump scare, like you'll be expecting it, and then it won't happen. Like he doesn't deliver on them. And I think that's kind of what we've had to resort to now because jump scares are so common. But I think James Wan does a really good job with building suspense and keeping your ass puckered. Like he doesn't always scare you every time he's building suspense, which is nice.
Right.
What do you got, Eric?
One of my close ones was Allerdale Hall from Crimson Peak.
Okay.
Oh, good one.
Not my favorite movie. I don't love Crimson Peak, but the look of that house, that mansion where the roof's missing in some areas, so it rains inside, the dark hallways, the reflections in the long hallway mirrors, and not my favorite movie, but damn, is that residence cool.
I'm due for a rewatch on some of Del Toro's movies. Like I need to go back and rewatch some of his older stuff. And like I watched Crimson Peak shortly thereafter it came out. Wasn't really all that impressed with it, but the house did leave an impression on me. That's a really cool house.
It's not great, but the production design of everything is excellent and it looks great.
Usually is in Del Toro movies. Right, like that's something he always does.
You can always count on that. Yeah.
Got anything else?
Yeah, I've got a bunch more.
Rattle them off.
Okay. The McNeil house from The Exorcist almost made my list. Again, you get to be in different parts of the house. You get to know the house pretty well. I think it all the house is important because the window goes right out to the stairs. So it's crucial. The house and where the house is and how the house is, where her room is in the house is all, tied into the plot of the film itself. Most of the movie takes place in the house. So that's definitely one that's worth mentioning. I had the Poltergeist house. I had the Beetlejuice house. The Mansion from the Changeling.
That is a movie that I continue to push down my watch list, that I hear people talk about all the time, and I just can't bring myself to watch it.
It's really good. I watched it somewhat recently, seriously in the past year for the first time, and it was good. It was really good.
I'll go with the Vampires flat and What We Do in the Shadows.
I really love living in a flatting situation.
Wake up! Wake up, everyone!
I like to hang out with other vampires. I like to company.
Awaken! Awakey, wakey!
Good idea.
That's excellent. Damn, that's one I did not think of, and I just watched that movie like 2 weeks ago.
It is one of my favorite vampire movies.
Hell yeah.
Fucking Taika Waititi, his humor, it gets me. I did not respond very well to Thor: Love and Thunder the first time I watched it. I watched it again. I fucking love it now. Like, if you just sit back and watch it as a comedy and take it for what it is, Taika Waititi for who he is, it's fun. And like What We Do in the Shadows, but again, the movie starts with them having a meeting about taking care of the house and washing the dishes and shit. So the house is a character in the movie. So yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, the flat there. And
definitely I forget their characters' names, but the one guy's room that's like a black abyss.
Yeah.
And you've got Peter in the basement.
Hey, listen, we're just having a flat meeting upstairs in about 10 minutes. You don't have to come, but I thought I'd extend an invitation to you just in case.
And, the windows are blacked out, for him. And, the one dude sleeps in the closet. And there's a bunch of dishes in the sink. And that part where they chase the people that they're trying to eat, of course, is great, where they're hanging down from the ceiling. It's like a haunted house. Moment. That's a great one, man. Oh man, that's good. That's good.
And I'll also throw out The House in You're Next. I think The House in that is really good. I'll just go ahead and throw my last two out there. I got Stu Macher's house from Scream.
Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a Scream, baby. Hold on a sec. I'll be right back.
I just want to say now I have Drew Barrymore's house from the beginning of Scream.
That's a good one too.
I liked the porch with the glass, and like you could see into the house from outside. It made her look vulnerable, that kind of stuff.
And I do have a couple more, but I'll also throw this one out real quick. Like Paranormal Activity, the house in that, and that was the one I was referencing at the beginning of the show. Is I remember watching that movie and just watching them go through the house and being like, damn, that's a nice house. I was more enamored with the layout of the house and how nice the house was than I was about what the hell was happening in the house. So
yeah, that one's on my list too. And I think the big one for me with that house is it feels like a house that I could live in.
It's a cookie cutter suburbs house. Yeah.
In the same way that the Poltergeist house feels like a house that anyone could live in. But this is like a modern house that, when you watch it and you're watching it through in the way that movie is presented through modern like digital cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
It feels like it's something, it feels more real because you're not looking at some Victorian mansion.
Right.
Or, so that you're looking at something that you could be in yourself, So yeah, that's a good one.
Another iconic house to me, the Addams Family house.
Great.
Dude.
That's a great one. You got the lab downstairs.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All the
crazy everything, all the different rooms.
That's
and
great.
Dude, what is it in the Addams Family movie that we had?
There's a big sequence where they go through the whole house, right?
Yeah, there's he's like a canoe going through the fucking house in the lower belly of the house.
That's so good, Jason. Oh hell yeah. It's excellent.
And I can't believe Josh didn't put this one out there because he said he was going to watch the movies. He didn't put House from House.
It's on my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I was about to say that one myself. Aunt Cobb's house.
She must have been working on this right before she died. Gives me the creeps. Morbid little woman, wasn't she?
That's the closet in her bedroom.
It's the same room where she hung her, where she passed away.
I like House, but I'd like House 2 better.
Yeah.
I haven't seen House 2.
House 2 is better, dude.
It's different. It's different. I don't know if it's
All right,
better.
okay. It's compare it this way: Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Still.
No. Wanting to be kind of a scary movie.
No.
Throw in a little horror. I mean, a little horror comedy. That's what House 2 does.
That's a great one, and almost made my list as well. I could have done a top 10 list easily of movies that I really wanted to talk about. It was hard to pare it down to 5.
Well, I got one on here.
Or 4.
This is the one where I told you it's the horror movie or house that I told you it's his home, but it's not literally a home per if you describe it. But I put Dracula's castle, but it is his home in which he lives.
I would
have accepted that.
Yeah.
I would have accepted that.
Think of another iconic thing, and it's a real place.
Sure. Yeah.
And then my last one. One little lighthearted is because we haven't talked about any kids movies. How about fucking Monster House, the animated movie?
Monster House. I've never seen it.
I've seen it once.
It's pretty cool for a kids movie. If you just want to watch something fun and goofy around Halloween, it's kind of interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard good things actually.
I have 2 more. I have the Aunt's House from House. Not the movie that Jason was just talking about. I'm talking about the movie from 1977. It is a Japanese movie.
Oh, right, that house.
And that is a movie that is bizarre, and it's hilarious. It's horrific. There's so much shit going on, but the house, is a character in the movie. Stuff that happens in the house is completely unexplainable, and it's a wild ride. If you have not seen House from 1977, there's a Criterion edition out of it. It is worth watching. It is one of those that you will go, okay.
That's been on my watch list for a long time, and I need to fill that in along with a lot of other ones.
I'm going to close it out with the Neibolt house from It.
I have that. I was about to say that myself. That's another great one. Especially tapping in, of course, like it does, to memories of being a kid.
Yeah.
And there's always some house on your block that was just kind of like, oh, a little creepy, that one. Or empty, or like there's an old person that lives there and they never come outside, but they yell at you when you step on their grass. Like, get out the grass. And you're like, oh shit. There was a lady like that. Oh my God. She's scared. And her screen was so dirty, I couldn't see her. So it was just like she's on the porch. Is she there? Is she not there? I don't want to get hit by a car. Get off the grass.
I'd just like to say 3 words. Scary German guy.
I was going to say old German guy's house from Monster Squad.
Absolutely.
I was literally waiting for him to give me a second to put that in.
Boys, time is almost up.
Eric, finish out your honorable mentions since you're taking it home.
Okay.
It was your
Well,
thing to do.
he did 29 Neibolt Street, so I have to take that one off. I've got the Ullman's Mansion from House of the Devil. The Ullman's Mansion, they lie. It's not really their house.
I've been wanting to rewatch that so much, especially since X and Pearl have just come out.
Well, I had never seen it. I watched X, so I watched House of the Devil within the past month. So it's fresh in my mind. But that is a cool house, and she has to kind of navigate around it a little bit. And
yeah,
it's worth mentioning. I've got the house from Night of the Living Dead that they barricade themselves in.
Good one.
Oh, there you go. Good one.
Classic horror house. And then I've just got the house from The Strangers.
I
just
thought about
it's
that
like
one.
the quintessential home invasion movie in my brain. Like there's no, like, I just feel like it is like home invasion movie. That's what I think of. And
yeah,
we're talking about houses. It's out, isolated, plenty of windows.
Have you watched The Strangers Pray at Night, the sequel?
Yes. And it was good. And
It's
I heard they're making
fucking good, man.
It is good, dude.
Leave us alone! But we've just started.
and yeah, it's good. And they're making another one. I think I saw.
No, they are rebooting the series.
I heard they were doing something. I wasn't sure
They're
if it
doing
was
something,
remaking or
but
what.
that's okay. I'll take a reboot. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, the second one might as well be a reboot.
The scene with the motel pool is
when
great,
it walks
dude.
through the pool.
Yeah, like that sequence is great, dude. And
That
like
movie's good.
a lot of people shit on that movie when it came out, and I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, this is a solid sequel to The Strangers. It's not bad. So yeah, I'm glad you said that.
All right, good. That's it. That's all I've got.
That's all we got, people. That's all.
But what are some of your favorite horror houses out there, people? Let us know in the comments below. Did we go over everything that you would have said? Is there something that we left out? Please let us know. Make sure you hit that bell so you know when we're putting out new videos. Subscribe if you like our videos. And we'll be back next week with another movie of the week for you. Till then, be kind.
Rewind. Get the fuck out.